There we go.
Hey, we're live.
All right, June 8th, 2020. Anthony, I'm back in New York.
How are you, man? So, Vegas is it's people saying good and bad about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing your recap of it.
Well, let's find out. That was a little tough to get started this morning. I'm pushing the button. It didn't want me to go live. Thank goodness we are here broadcasting with you. And Anthony, I'm so glad to be back in the cool comforts of my home and not having to worry about masking up all the time.
Well, I'll tell you something. I cannot wait to hear about your recaps, which we'll talk about for a minute or two.
Yep.
But I'm really excited, man. We have a big guest on today.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Anthony. We don't need to do much talking about what the experience was like because we did 3 live shows from Las Vegas last week. So if any of you all missed it out there, no problem. Just go check out Anthony's LinkedIn page, my LinkedIn page, Anthony's Facebook pages, our No Vacancy pages, NoVacancyNews.com. Lots of places for you to get all of the scoop on what we experienced while I was in
So let me ask you one question and we'll get to our guest.
Yep.
And who is our guest before I ask you the question?
You think we should probably reveal that? Jay Caiafa, Chief Operating Officer of the Americas for IHG. Absolutely thrilled that IHG is coming on board today. So great that all the major brands are finally coming on. They're getting ready to talk. They're getting ready to share what they're doing to make people safe and talk about how we're all going to work together to get travel back.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So real quick question.
Yes, sir.
Would you get on a plane tomorrow and go back to Vegas for 5 days just to relax?
Yes.
But you would be a specific hotel?
Although I do take umbrage at one point of your statement. I've never gone to Vegas just to relax. So I don't know if that's going to ever happen.
So if somebody's like, I just want to get on a plane and go to Vegas.
Yeah, I felt really comfortable about the entire process. And like I said, we also put out a video on what my travel experience is like and all of that kind of stuff. It's really just a matter of anything in life that there seems to be some sort of fear around. A lot of that is because of the unknown. Once you go to it, once you dive into it, once you really embrace what's happening, man, oh man, Anthony, you understand what the rules of the game are. And then when the parameters are set, you can live within those parameters in order to feel that comfort and security that you need in order for us to move forward. It's all.
It's like when marijuana was legal in Vegas. They're like, oh, marijuana is illegal in Vegas. You're going to smoke pot. No, I don't smoke pot. So I'm not going to smoke pot in Vegas. So it's like if somebody's not wearing a mask, I'm going to still wear my mask. So because somebody else is doing something, it's about your protection. So all in all, Vegas opened, and what happens? All of a sudden, the country starts to feel like, okay, Vegas is open. Let's go. I'm starting to see it. We went phase 1 today in New York City. Big deal. Very big phase. What does phase 1 mean? It means manufacturing, wholesale is open, retail for pickup. The restaurants and bars aren't open yet, but you're starting to see New York come alive a little bit, and that's really good news.
Yeah, it was really good news. It's really good news to see everything coming back. So why don't we keep the good news train going? Let's bring in our guest. How's that sound, Anthony?
Let's go, baby.
All right, Jay Caiafa, COO, IHG. Man, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's great to see you. I hope you're doing well. Hope your loved ones are safe and healthy.
Yours too, and thank you for your service. You were an Air Force pilot, and I appreciate your service, my friend.
Hey, before we get into it, I do want to say when I did come home from Vegas, my wife was a little anxious and nervous. So I've got to wear the mask around the house right now, and I'm kind of a little bit quarantined for the rest of the family until she gets a little bit more comfortable. So, our rule is during this time, in order to make sure everyone feels comfortable and can go out traveling, is that we just kind of all agree on how we're going to handle things at home so the rest of us can get back to work. You feeling good, Jay?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, as good as can be expected. I mean, obviously there's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in the country right now in our industry. But, my family's healthy and happy. We're all surviving. So, yeah, we're doing pretty well.
That's great. So the biggest question I have is, how's IHG right now? What are you working on? What's your biggest thing on your plate?
Well, I think the best place to start, Jay, is let me tee it up for you. You guys on May 18th released your clean promise on how to and all of that. So let's just get right into that.
I thought that was teeing it up. That's the biggest thing on his plate.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty big plate, guys. We got a pretty big plate. So you're absolutely right, Glenn. We teed that up in May. I think so. As you think about promise, right? We always go back to where we started as a company, to what it means to be a branded company in the hospitality industry, and to me, that all starts with trust. right? If you go back to when Kemmons Wilson, founded Holiday Inn 70 years ago, it was all about building a brand that people could trust, going across the country and knowing that they have a safe place to stay at a good, affordable rate. They knew it would be high quality. They knew it would be good people. The Clean Promise is really just an extension of that. You kicked it off in your comments talking about how everybody's afraid of the unknown. And a lot of this travel right now is challenged by that fear of the unknown. We don't really understand COVID as well as we would like to. We've never seen something like this in our industry or in our lifetimes, really. And so the Clean Promise was another way for us to help try to show that level of trust with our guests, right? So it's all about making sure that, if you come to an IHG hotel, we've got high standards of cleanliness. I'm sure we can go through all of those. But most importantly, if you get into your guest room and you don't feel safe, you don't feel like it's clean, we're going to make it better. Hard stop.
Yep. Right.
We're going to make it better.
Now, Jay, I haven't had a chance yet to stay at one of the IHG properties since you created this new program, but I did stay in 2 hotels. And I think it's important for people to know that both hotels I stayed in, I felt as safe and secure as every other hotel I stayed in. Why? Because professionals like Jay and other companies know how important and serious this is out there. Without building that trust, without creating that right atmosphere for people to feel comfortable, well, we're all going to be in trouble. So, Jay, I'm sure that all of your guests that are staying with you right now are feeling really comfortable about what you're able to do with your promises.
Well, and that's all about obviously the people in hotel, Glenn, right? I mean, all of these promises are kept by the men and women that are working their tails off every day, whether it's in housekeeping, front desk, at the bell station. It's all brought to life by people. And that's one of the things that we're so proud of, is the culture that we're able to build in our hotels. And frankly, just the level of care and compassion that those frontline folks have. I mean, I get notes almost every day about somebody making a difference in someone else's lives. And you see people like first responders. I mean, they can't even go home sometimes. I mean, you mentioned, Glenn, you're having to wear a mask and kind of self-isolate a little bit. Well, we've got a lot of doctors and nurses that are staying in hotels so that they don't have to expose their family.
That's right.
So to get a note from one of those folks saying, you made me feel like I was at home. And while I was away from my kids and I was away from my family, I felt cared for here. I mean, that's why we're in this, right?
And the mentality, and again, you being a military guy, they were at war. The first responders were at war against a silent enemy, and so they were exasperated. I have a very dear friend that's a frontline doctor in New York, and he was just exhausted mentally, not just physically. And to come home, his family stayed upstate, but to come home and just to feel comfort and to feel that you're safe is critical. And when I saw in New York City hotels being a first responder hotel, it just made me just double down on that hotel or that brand. And so thank you so much. What are some of the elements of the promise? What are some of the elements of the things that you guys were doing?
Sure. Well, the promise, I think, is just very straightforward. It is exactly as I stated. We'll make it right. We're going to make sure that your room is clean, that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable. And if you don't, we're going to make it right. It's very, very simple. And it's actually not something that's new to IHG. It's similar to the promises that we've had in Avid Hotels, the Holiday Inn promise. So this isn't something that should be earth-shattering. It's not difficult to understand. Our hotels will make sure that your rooms are clean. So I think for us, a lot of it just centers on what that cleanliness piece means. What do you expect when you get into the hotel? And I think first, it's important to say, this isn't something we just started working on because of COVID, right? We started our IHG Way of Clean 5 years ago, partnering with companies like Ecolab and Diversity to make sure that we had protocols, tools, training in place so that our rooms were of the highest standard of clean. And actually, when we started into this pandemic, we went and we reevaluated those, and we realized that actually our way of clean was sufficient, but we still wanted to do more. So what did we do? We stood up a task force to understand all the other new technologies that were out there, things that we could do to accentuate that way of clean. How do we make sure our colleagues are safe in hotels with the right levels of personal protective equipment or health screenings and things like that? And then we partnered with the Cleveland Clinic. That's something we're tremendously proud of. We've had a really good relationship with the Cleveland Clinic for a number of years based on our partnership in hotels in Cleveland itself. But now being able to work with the Cleveland Clinic and understand what are they seeing? What are they doing? I mean, the work that they're doing in the clinics themselves is absolutely unbelievable. We were on a call actually a couple of weeks ago speaking with the CEO and COO just about some of what they're doing and how they're keeping their employees safe. And I won't share the stats, but I'll tell you, it is earth-shattering. The fact that there is just an absence of employee exposure to COVID based on them doing the right things. And now they're helping to advise us on how we do the right things to make guests feel even more safe.
You know, I was telling you off camera that I was working with IHG when I built the stay bridge for an owner in New York City. We built it from scratch. And I remember I went through the general manager program at IHG. I had to go down to Atlanta or wherever I went, and I had to go through and become certified as a general manager in IHG. And it wasn't that long ago, maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago. And I remember the cleanliness standards. And it was the first time in all the hotels I've ever been in, all the brands and independents, that you had really specific cleaning colors of your rags. That's actually, I brought that to Hotel Impossible, where every single surface has a different color rag. And it was the first brand that I actually saw do that, and other things that you guys did that I hadn't seen other brands do. So I saw it personally. I had to get certified as general manager, and I saw exactly the level and the scope of clean that the hotels are. So again, I saw it firsthand.
Yeah, and Anthony, it's interesting because I think you've been in this industry for a long time, and you see the way this works. And I often think our housekeeping staff, for example, they are the unsung heroes of the stay, right? That is table stakes. So you have a clean room. But I think one of the things that we're seeing now is this shift that, 5 years ago, even 5 months ago, frankly, that was all kind of done in the background. So if you went through Hotel Impossible or you've been through training, all the steps that go into that. Mm-hmm. But frankly, people wanted to see that kind of blend into the fabric of the background. They didn't necessarily want to see people cleaning. And now that's different. They want to see people cleaning. They want to know that it's not just the housekeepers that are going into their rooms and kind of silently making sure everything's safe. And so we've actually gone a step further, and we said for every hotel, we want a clean champion. We want somebody who is going to wake up every morning and just sweat all the small stuff everywhere around the hotel. And this isn't about going through with a checklist and making sure things are done. It's about making sure you have a culture where everybody understands that we all play a responsibility in making sure that hotel is clean and safe.
So that person is above and beyond, like not only a director of housekeeping, it's like almost like a chief hygiene officer, like just making sure everything's clean.
Yeah, exactly. And so right now we're starting with the GMs, and they're going to go through their own version of Clean Champion training. It's something we built actually on the loyalty program a while back. We had loyalty champions that were responsible for kind of being that voice and really taking that to the next level in our hotels. And we're building on that tradition with now Clean Champions. But this is going to be something where it's everybody's job. But at the same time, I think what we all realize, and Glenn, I'd be interested in your travels to get your thoughts on this, that while everyone wants their rooms to be clean and safe, they also still want the experience of being in a hotel. And
that's right.
You have to balance both making sure clean and safe with having the experience that we all crave whenever we travel.
And that's one of the things that I liked about being in Las Vegas. It was kind of a choose your own experience thing. So whatever level of comfort that you were seeking, there was a resort out there that was matching that level of comfort. So again, it's all about, how we feel about each other, making sure that people feel really good and comfortable in it. I think there is a learning curve to be done, but from everything that I've seen from being out on the road and from doing all of these great interviews every single day is that we're getting closer and closer. And that I think by the time everybody gets back on the road, it's going to be a state of normalization. But Jay, you're talking about the visibility aspect of it. Anthony, I'm thinking now might be a good time to bring in that video of what they're doing that highlights some of the visibility of the cleaning. What do you say about that?
Let me push the button. Hold on.
All right, producer Jeff, could you bring in that video, please? Thank you.
Why did you kill it, man? I pushed the button
because it takes a few seconds, and I didn't want people to think you were a bad button pusher. I'm here to protect you, Anthony. Broken. All right, you now say it. Now push the button, Anthony.
Push the button.
Around the world, we've been busy planning how to welcome you back. We know our heartfelt care needs to look a bit different now. Your safety and well-being will always be our top priority. So, with our longtime partners, Ecolab and Diversey, we're enhancing our IHG Way of Clean program. And we've partnered with the Cleveland Clinic on new global cleanliness initiatives to help ensure you feel safe. We're focusing on frequent deep cleaning and disinfecting, and social distancing measures. We're exploring new ways to reduce contact at our front desks, use of protective equipment, new cleaning methods and technologies, sanitizer stations for everyone, and cleanliness amenity kits for our guests. We've enhanced our room cleaning procedures and are clearing and opening up our spaces. We've developed new dining guidelines. And to ensure we never lose focus on these key areas, we're assigning clean champions at all of our hotels around the world. Additionally, we're launching our IHG Clean Promise. We promise that when you're ready to travel again, your stay will meet our high standards of cleanliness. If not, we'll make it right. We can't wait to see you again.
That is well done, and welcome to our new normal, which seems normal. It seems okay. It seems like, I'm not going to get uncomfortable. That's just the way it is, and we're going to become used to it. But it's well done, very well done. It makes me feel very secure in seeing something like that, because you're being honest with what you can do.
Thanks,
and I think, Jay, you're probably not forcing people to do everything forever. As the situation changes, I'm sure you'll go out there and revise what you think the appropriate policies and procedures are for any given period of time, right?
Right. Of course, Glenn. I mean, that's the challenge of the environment that we're in. Nobody really knows
what
it's going to look like and for how long and what's going to be expected. As a global company, we're always dealing with even just the yin and yang of CDC comes out with something, the WHO comes out with something. They don't always necessarily agree on how far you should take it. Things like wearing masks or gloves. So we're trying to learn as we go, obviously, while moving really fast. The best way for us to do that is to stay close to our guests and to stay close to our owners and operators to understand what we're seeing in hotels, what the uptake is on things like masks or hand sanitizer and things like that, just to get to the guests what they need. But we know that, like anything else, everything is going to continue to evolve. But for now, the one thing that we've made clear is we are not going to sacrifice on cleanliness or safety.
One of the things, though, Glenn, you said was, as things get better, we'll peel it back. But if you look at that video, you don't have to peel anything back except lose the mask. Everything else, all you're doing is doubling down on what people expect. And, you're being more, diligent, vigilant, whatever you want to say. So there's not much there. I think that's going to be the new standard going forward, period. I'm always going to want to see somebody clean the elevator buttons. I'm just always going I'm always going to want to see somebody cleaning as opposed to cleaning at night. So I don't think that there's many things that you did there that is going to go away. It's just a new standard. Again, having a chief hygiene officer or whatever you want to call it, why should that go away? Why should we lose the focus of cleanliness once COVID goes away? We all get the flu. We all get colds when we get on the road. I know when I started traveling 10 years ago extensively, I had a cold every couple of weeks, it seemed, or every couple of months. So hopefully, it prevents a lot of things, not just COVID.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. And you're right. It's interesting. I kind of look back when we launched Avid a couple of years ago. You guys are familiar with Avid Hotel.
Of course.
You've had Jen on the show as well. One of the things that we learned as we were looking at consumers out there, and part of the reason why we launched Avid, which was a hotel focused on cleanliness, focused on high quality sleep and showers, making sure that you have everything that you need and nothing that you don't, we found a really large group of guests out there that were willing to take the chance. And they tried to do all the research they could to try to figure out if the hotel that they were going to was going to be clean. And they made sure they brought their cleaning wipes just in case, and socks and duct tape and whatnot. And I'm with you, Anthony. I don't think people are going to be willing to make that trade anymore. I don't think they're gonna take a chance and say I can get this room for $10 or $15 cheaper, as opposed to saying I don't know if I want to take the chance on that room not being clean. I think this is going to be honestly just a table stake that everyone is going to make sure that they deliver against. And
absolutely,
I think it goes beyond IHG too. I think one of the things that we talked about at the beginning was kind of the entire travel circumstance, right? So for the industry to fully recover, I mean, we're seeing parts of recovery already. We know there's going to be drive-in markets, and we can talk more about that. But for the industry to fully recover and get back to what it was like last year, people have to have trust across the entire journey. That's not just in our hotel. That's not just the moment they walk in the door. They've got to have trust in the airlines. They've got to have trust in the whether it's taking Uber or a cab. They have to have trust that they can go the entire journey and be safe. And so we're having conversations with airlines to understand what they're learning, what's working for them, not with Delta, quick service restaurants. I mean, so I think we're all learning as an industry. How do we make sure that we get good, consistent feelings of trust and safety all the way through the journey?
Well, I drove upstate the last 2 weeks. I had to go back and forth to the Catskills for something. And the rest areas have become a concern of mine. I wanted to make sure when I got in the rest area that it was socially separated. And one rest area was perfect. I couldn't have asked for it to be better. And one wasn't so great. So even the rest areas, especially now, remember how important those maps were and those rest areas were back when we were kids, right? And that's kind of how the whole industry started on the highway. So those rest areas have become more and more important this summer. And I just hope that they get it right, because that will prevent people from wanting to travel in their car, because you have to use those rest areas.
Yeah, I've got an observation. I totally forgot to mention when I was in Vegas that the men's bathrooms had different policies. We're taking all of these steps for physical distancing on the casino gaming floor, for example, or in the hotel experience. But in the bathrooms, with the exception of Wynn, it was like nothing had ever changed. So I was hoping to go utilize one of the restroom facilities there, but there are people all bunched right next to each other. Now at Wynn, they blocked off every other urinal so you could keep that spacing apart. Then I've got a question for you coming from one of our viewers out there. What's the protocol, Jay, for bedding in the hotel?
Sorry, Glenn, you kind of broke up right as you said that.
That's all right. What is the protocol that you have in place for bedding in the room?
We have an entire laundry protocol. Obviously, I mean, even before you get to that, one of the things that we're doing in our rooms is making sure that we're decluttering things and taking stuff out of the room that is something that traditionally maybe was more difficult to clean. You know, things like menu or paper tent cards, things like that, pens, paper, etc., throw pillows. And we're doing that so we can make sure that everything that's in the room is absolutely clean whenever a guest arrives. And so on the bed, we're starting to reduce some of the extra pieces that all of us, the moment we get into the hotel, we just tear them off the bed anyways, because we don't want them around. So making sure that everything that is on the bed is clean and ready for the guest. So for that, I mean, we've always had, obviously, as you can imagine, very, very high stringent protocols around linen, terry, et cetera, making sure that all of that is going to be something where it's absolutely clean for everybody.
Excellent. Thank you for asking that. All right. I'm done with talking about the cleaning stuff, Anthony. I don't know if you have any more cleaning questions related.
Well,
but
it's so funny
because
you're always telling me that I talk about cleaning too much.
I know. And here I went.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to find out, where are we now? What are you seeing in your, not so much the industry, just your portfolio? What are you seeing? What are you seeing with owners now that the extension happened last week, going to 24 weeks for PPP? And also, are you seeing people that were going to go for one brand now maybe going for the extended stay brand? So there's a couple of questions in that one question.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great questions in there, Anthony. I mean, I think we've got to go back just to the beginning and just recognize how massive of an impact this has had on our industry.
Wait,
right?
you said the beginning. Are we going all the way back to the Big Bang, or just to the last?
No, just generally. But I think.
All right. Okay. Good.
I think it's, yeah. No, we don't have enough time for me to go back to the Big Bang. I could talk forever on this. But I mean, this is an industry that's normally generating somewhere in the neighborhood of $660 billion. And right now, the estimates that we're seeing is the hotel industry is going to be lucky to hit 160 of that. Right. So, this is 75% down overnight. You think about it from an employment standpoint, right? I think the stat that I saw was last year, 1 in 4 jobs were created by the travel and tourism sector. And if you look at April, we lost almost 8 million jobs in that month alone. So I just don't want to underestimate the fact that where we are right now, this is still a journey that we have ahead of us. And we're not necessarily sure what that's going to be. You mentioned the PPP.
Right.
listen,
Before you go on to that part, I did want to just add, I got some brand new statistics that might be helpful to everyone out there. According to Hotel Effectiveness, 38% of hotel employees overall in the United States are back to work. That's up a good percentage over the last month or so. Not where we need to be, but moving in the right direction. Sorry, Jay, please take it from here.
No, it's great. Anytime you can interject good news, Glenn, we'll take it. We'll take it. I look, every morning I wake up and I try to find some good news. So you're right. We're not where we need to be, but we're moving in that direction. I think for us as a company in particular, one of the things that's really important to realize is that the majority of our owners are small business owners.
That's right.
We're not a company that is built by having massive real estate investment across our portfolio with people owning 20, 30, 50 hotels. Yes, we have some of those too, but the vast majority of our owners are individual owners that may only have 1 or 2 hotels.
Right.
They've put a ton of their own capital and frankly dreams into those hotels. And so we knew from the start how important it was going to be to help not only get support from IHG, but also to lobby the government, which is why I go back to the PPP. You're right. That's something we were on from the beginning, lobbying and saying we have small business owners that need to get this money in order to actually keep their liquidity. That's the number one most important thing to get through this. We need that liquidity in our hotels. And that came through, and that was really, really helpful. And actually we're excited to see that the House and Senate have passed now the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act. I feel like I'm back in the military with all these acronyms, trying to keep them all straight. But that's something that's going to hopefully, now that it's extending the time period where you can use those funds, the uses of funds, being able to bring people back. But we know that's not going to be enough either. So we're going to still keep working on it. So yeah, specifically about our estate and our owners, I think there's still a lot of owners out there that are hurting. We're doing our best to try to help them get through to the other side of this. But at the same time, we're also seeing stories of massive success. If you look over the last several weeks, some areas of the country looked like it was summer again. If you look at like the Florida Panhandle, we had hotels that were sold out, that it was difficult to get a room. And so those hotels are now working double time to make sure that they can keep social distancing in place,
right?
Keep the rooms turning over. Because it gets a lot harder when you're at higher occupancy.
Jay,
right?
when you say sold out, are those hotels actually permitting 100% of rooms to be sold?
That's a good question, Glenn. Honestly, we don't have that problem in a lot of places right now.
Right.
To be honest with you. So when I say sold out, I'm saying it's sold out capacity.
That's right. Okay, cool.
So there are hotels, like, so if you know you're going to be sold out this weekend, you say, okay, so we don't want to sell 100 rooms, 100% of our rooms, because we know, like you just said, it becomes that much more complicated, and we're kind of new to this. We're just coming on the other side of this. So let's not open all 100 rooms. Let's open 75 rooms. Is that what's happening, or is basically the full inventory being put into the system?
Well, I think as you would see, I mean, it's rare that a hotel's ever at full inventory, period.
Right.
There's always rooms out of service. But honestly, it's not the rooms that are the issue when we think about this, Anthony, because once you're in your room, the room is safe. It's all about getting navigation through the hotel, right? So that's where we're working with our owners to make sure that their lobby areas, public space, elevator banks, elevators themselves, any of those areas of the hotel are actually built in a way or adjusted in a way where you can maintain safe spacing for guests. We're also working through when you do have grab and go, for example, for a breakfast offering. How do you do that so you don't have a mass exodus at the same time? How do you make sure that you don't have everybody trying to check in or check out at the same time? So those are all things that we're having to work through. The reality is right now, even trying to understand what it would be like to be at 80, 90, 100% occupancy consistently is frankly just as much as I would like to dream about it, it's a little bit far away for us. But again, most important thing is keeping people safe.
What does the buffet look like? Talking about, like, Holiday Inn Express has been my go-to brand for Hotel Impossible. I said, if we don't stay Holiday Inn Express, I don't want to travel, and that's a true story. And my friends at IHG know that, because I always say, why am I the Holiday Inn Express guy? I should be talking about this, because I went to, I would say, way over 50, probably close to 100 hotels, expresses. And I never, and this is a true story, not one problem. I didn't have no mold, no bad service, no dirty sheets. it was literally, I talk about it all the time. It was literally the best experience I've ever had traveling. And we did it for 10 years. We traveled all over this country and I've never had a bad experience. So one of the things that I got used to was the breakfast. I was very diligent on what I ate before we went live or before we shot. And so what happens with my breakfast? Am I able to get my breakfast, or is it going to be grab and go? Is it going to be delivered to my room? How's that going to work?
Sure. So that's something actually we're working on right now. We're going to have more guidance coming out this week. So it's actually a very, very timely moment to ask that question. What I'll say is from the beginning, we've been following CDC guidelines. And one of the immediate guidelines was you want to avoid buffets. So from the beginning, we gave our owners the opportunity to shut down the buffets and move more towards a grab and go. When the hotels were very low occupancy, that grab and go was often very simple. Now, as we're starting to get higher occupancy, we're having to think through different layers of plans in order to make sure that that food service is indeed safe. So how do you do grab and go with a hot item? At what point, what level of occupancy do you need to move into that sort of a service plan, et cetera? But right now, for the vast majority of our hotels, you still receive your free breakfast. However, it's not serve yourself buffet style. Some owners have put in a breakfast attendant that's serving into vessels that you can then take with you. Some of them are individually wrapped items. We're working through exactly what that will look like longer term, because we know how much everybody loves the expensive part breakfast. We do too. My kids love the pancake machine. It's one of the most fascinating.
Oh, so cool.
Life. So I think that's one that we're still working through, and it's obviously a very difficult situation.
It's an important part. It's an important part of that experience. And Tim Riley, I talk to him all the time. He's a sales guy here in the Northeast, and I always tell him, I say, dude, I talk about you guys all the time. It's like you got it right. I mean, when you roll this brand out, you got it right. And people would know when I was in a different hotel, I want to know why. You'd have to be sold out, or you have to be 100 miles away for me not to stay at the Holiday Inn Express. And that's a true story.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a testament to the brand, our operations teams, and obviously the hotel teams that work for our owners. That dedication to just service and true hospitality is fantastic.
Right. How challenging is it for you guys to think about all the different states and towns that you're in? Because New York right now is behaving very differently than Florida, which is behaving very differently than, Wisconsin, for example. So it must be extra hard to understand where there are opportunities or not opportunities right now for hoteliers to continue being profitable as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm so fortunate that we have a lot of really, really smart colleagues that are working on all those problems that help to feed us the right answers. The reality is it is difficult, and it's difficult for a number of reasons. First of all, the way travel is working in some of those states or towns is quite different. We have a lot of different, frankly, requirements that are being put out in different cities. LA, for example, has different requirements right now than what you would find in Dallas. So we've got to adjust the service for that. And everything we do is always in line with the idea that if your municipality requires something different, follow the law first.
Right, of course.
We'll figure out how to do that. But we're also seeing differences in, frankly, the way our types of brands are working. So as you mentioned, obviously our large luxury upscale houses that are sitting in a city like New York are in a much different situation right now than our extended stay hotels or our non-urban Holiday Inn Expresses. I mean, as we're looking at occupancy rates for the industry, we're actually seeing that distribution in those non-rural markets is actually helping a lot of our owners. We're actually in a bit of a better place than what we see.
Right. It's super strange, Jay, because it's kind of like everything that we understood with the fundamentals have been completely flip-flops, where a lot of these secondary and tertiary cities are the ones that are going to be really leading the way right now. And the major city hotels and the big convention center hotels are the ones that are going to have increasing challenges. Plus, Jay, even if people really want to travel, the odds on me taking my family on an airplane somewhere are going to be diminished, not necessarily because of the fear factor, but because they cut back 90% of flights, for example. When I took off from JFK on Wednesday of last week, there were 6 flights leaving that morning. That's going to make it a lot harder for operators in a lot of the major cities, even if the restrictions are lifted until those flights come back. That's going to be really difficult. Any thoughts or advice or any way that you're trying to work with those airlines? I know you mentioned the airlines prior to to kind of come together to try to promote travel, get people traveling again, so we can actually create business for you that could come in and stay in your hotels?
And Jay, before you answer that
Yeah.
question, he wasn't in the military, so I just want to teach him a lesson.
Yes, thank you.
This is 4. Where is it? And this is 6. Okay, because you were talking and you said 6. This is not 6. Okay, this is 6.
All right, I said 6. I don't even remember saying that number.
Anyway, so Jay, it's a good question. So answer my friend,
Whatever my name is. I go by Glenn these days, Anthony.
Townsend Math. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
Sure. So you're right. It's a challenge. I mean, we think about the Atlanta airport, and that's an airport that's one of the busiest, if not the busiest airport in the world. And oftentimes you see pictures of it, and it's just not as full anymore, and there's not as many flights. So you're right. So
There
a lot
were
of
terminals that were closed. It was crazy.
It's crazy. You're right. So a lot of what we're doing now, we are looking at ways for once it's the right time, how do you find ways to incentivize travel? How do you try to bring it back? Because it will come back. But in the meantime, you're absolutely right. The drive-in markets are getting a ton of, not a ton, but they are where there is demand, they are receiving most of that demand right now. Mm-hmm. And so what our teams are trying to do is understand how can we incentivize travelers that would be the drive-in type of travelers to maybe have a staycation or a more local vacation, whether that's giving incentives by saying, hey, if you stay 2 nights, you get 1 night free, or whatever those might be. Our teams are working on all of those. I do want to go back really quickly to one of the other questions, though, because I think this is important. And I know it's not just IHG. I know there's a lot of hotels doing this. You asked, how hard is it to kind of look across all these communities and all these different cities and municipalities? I do want to say there is one thing that has been consistent through all of them, and that is the fact that hotels feel an obligation. They feel a responsibility to be part of the fabric of the communities that they're located in. And so throughout this, sometimes through our support at corporate, sometimes just on their own, we're seeing hotels that are doing everything they can to give back to the community. Participation in food banks. We think about in New York, local to you guys, the Intercontinental Times Square, donating 250 room nights every night for doctors and nurses, first responders, free of charge on their own dime. They're doing that. Crown Plaza Atlanta Perimeter, they donated sheets to a mattress company that's making masks. We see all this kind of around the country, which to me is just absolutely a testament to these owners who are in a moment of challenge for them financially, and they're still reaching out and finding a way to have an impact on their communities.
You mentioned into the Continental Times Square. I actually worked for. I was there when we opened it. When we developed it, I worked for Tishman. I was part of the team. I was at the Westin, but I was part of the team that helped open the Intercontinental. And Tishman and that ownership group is such a fabric, part of the fabric of New York City, and so it doesn't surprise me. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, I said a couple of weeks ago, and I've been saying, like, people that have forecasting stuff, like, don't come on my show and don't talk to us. Like, I don't want to hear about forecasting. We don't know what's going on. But now I think we can.
I want to hear about six casting.
So now I feel that we can kind of like start to feel our way through this. And again, maybe not perfect forecasting, but the business traveler. We all know this doesn't come back until the business traveler starts traveling. And how much of the Zoom era are we going to walk away from, and how much is going to stay with us where people aren't going to be traveling so much? Forget about COVID or anything else, but just that they found better efficiencies and people aren't going to be on the road. What are your thoughts about that, just overall, from the business perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. Listen, I think this industry is durable. I think that there are certain things that can be replaced by virtual conferencing. And honestly, I'm amazed at how well this, I guess, business economy, if you will, has survived with remote working. But for every conversation where I'm having it with a business that says we're going to now be much more remote, there's one saying that I can't wait until we're back together. Right. I feel like we just do not work the same way. We're not sure what impact we might not be having on our colleagues every day. So to me, I think business travel will come back. There's a fundamental flow that's required. I mean, as human beings, fundamentally, I think what COVID is reminding us of is our reliance on movement and connection. And as much as I love Zoom, and I love, well, I don't necessarily love all of the web tools that we have, but when they work, they're great. But there are certain things that just cannot be replaced. And that relationship building, getting around the country, building the esprit de corps of having teams together is all going to be something that's necessary. That's actually one of the reasons why you'll hear us often talk about everything we're doing being global. So like the IHG Clean Promise is global. The reason why we're doing that is actually in many cases for our business travelers, because we want businesses to understand that wherever they send their people, anywhere in the world, if it has an IHG flag, they're going to be safe. They're going to have the same cleanliness standards. They're going to know that people are treating them in the right way. So I think it'll come back, Anthony, just like everything else. I think big groups and meetings are right now kind of the biggest question for us, because we're getting a lot of questions from our B2B colleagues on what is this going to look like? How are you going to handle catering? How do you ensure separation? And we've actually already started building and sharing a number of tools on how we reconfigure spaces, dedicated elevator banks, things like that, to making sure that you can still have those large meetings in a way that's safe. But I think that's probably going to be the last to come back, those massive meetings. But then again, we're also seeing every day improvements in technology. And we had a conversation with a group that created a machine that can test for this. Now, it's not FDA approved, so I'm not going to share any names or anything like that. But if it works, you can essentially do a test to find out if you're carrying COVID in your breath for the cost of a cup of coffee. Those massive convention houses, I think, are going to have to get better at testing before that comes back, right? Yeah. And I see as our country's doing it, I think we will too.
I think that's a good point. And I'm looking forward to the HOA conference, which is coming up in August. And I think that's the first real big conference that I know of that's still on, right, Glenn?
Correct. They are still on, and the lodging conference is still on. And once, but AHO is the only pre-Labor Day one that I'm engaged in attending right now. And I'm looking forward to it. I want to be there. I want to be with my fellow hoteliers when they're ready to get back. I've got one last question for you, Jay, that was coming from one of our listeners out there. What tier, what segment are you seeing the best growth at today?
So we're actually starting to see growth in all of our segments. So it's kind of hard to say that, right? I mean, as we look at, absolutely, right?
I'm glad the answer wasn't clear.
No. Yeah, it would be sad if it was just one. But we are seeing it across the board. It's just the speed of it moving across the board is probably a little bit different. As I mentioned in extended stay, we didn't see as much of a drop off as we saw in some of our other brands. So those brands, while they've been steadily growing, have been over 50% occupancy. For some time. Holiday Inn Express is continuing to see traction. Again, I think where we're seeing the slowest growth is in the larger, big box, urban city center type of hotels, where it's just a little bit more challenging right now. But generally speaking, we continue to see movement in the industry. We're learning a lot from our colleagues in Greater China, for example, who've been going through this for some time. We're learning a lot from what they're seeing. So I think there's a lot of hope out there. I'm not a doom and gloom sort of guy. I think that this will recover. We don't know what the shape is going to be. I've heard a V shape, a U shape, a swoosh shape, a W shape. Who knows what it's going to be? But at the end of the day, I do think we're going to recover. I think we're going to be stronger than ever when we do. It's going to be based on the relationships that we're building and the trust that we're creating with our guests that now understand more than ever IHG is with them. We're worried about their safety. We're worried about the safety of our colleagues, and we're worried about the viability of our owners and our business. And we're trying to be very measured in those responses.
And never, since I've been in this industry, has it been more important to have people like you in leadership roles, people that understand what leadership's about, people that understand that this is an opportunity to show how great our executive team is to really bring our company through this. And your military training, your pilot training, and everything that you've been trained to do is really shining through. And I've seen it, I've heard about it. And so that's a testament to you. And that's what's going to get these brands and these big companies through, is the great leadership that you surround yourself with, and also your vision. So thank you for that.
No, thank you, Anthony. It's one of my coaches used to always say, when you're running and you come up against a hill, you can either regret the hill in your decision to run, or you can look at it as a chance to get past your competition. And I think
and the reason why I'm not in the military is I would have chosen number one.
I'm not a one.
Yeah, as Glenn said when I first met him, he's always 15 minutes from a nap and a bagel.
Yeah.
Well said.
And that's what gets me excited. And that's why I love this show. And that's why I love talking to people like you. That's what gets me excited. This is like being in your position, you're not in that position when things are great. Like right before this all happened, record numbers 10 years in a row, brands are doing great. Listen, it's hard. Your job's hard enough in good times, but that's not what you're paid for. That's not why you're in that position. It's when the rug gets pulled out from under you and go, all right, guys, let's reset. Let's think about this. Let's refocus. Right. That's like, that to me is how I've been trained my whole life, not only in the military, but in the hospitality industry. I don't like when I wake up in the morning and everything's going well, I get bored real easy, and I'm like, I must be doing something wrong because everything's going really well. I get.
I'll share a quick anecdote with you guys. Anecdote before I jump here. When I was in the Air Force, I had terrible timing just generally. As I move into new roles, it seems like something bad in the world always happens. But on September 11th, I mean, many of us know exactly where we were. You guys are in New York, so you'll appreciate this. But one of the things I remember is we took off. Obviously, the world had changed very quickly. On the morning of September 11th, I was mission planning to go overseas, and instead I found myself over New York flying combat air patrol as the trade centers were falling down. And I was there for a long time, and I can talk about this for a while, but I just want to share one point, which is I was still there at about 10,000 feet over Midtown Manhattan the morning of September 12th. And the sun rose that day, and I remember driving through New York all the time. I grew up in Connecticut, and as the sun came up, you saw the skyline was different. That beautiful New York skyline had changed. The world was different. Our jobs were different. We didn't know what that was going to mean. We didn't know where that would be. But I remember feeling just this deep-rooted sense of belief that as a team, as a country, as humankind, we would get past that. And I think that's the one lesson that I've learned in crisis. They're never permanent. You always get past them. And now more than ever, I think we need that positivity, that belief, and that confidence that we'll get through this too.
And you know what? First of all, thank you for that. And it was really powerful. It's actually emotional to hear you say that, because I remember thinking about the pilots that were protecting America. And I remember that, like, I depended on you to protect my family and my children that day. I remember saying, I don't know where they are, but I just hope, man, they're ready to go, because I felt that September 12th or September 13th may happen. September 11th may happen on those days. So I remember specifically, because I was in the Air Force and I was at the B-2 base. I was at Whiteman Air Force Base. Oh, wow. So I was around not only nuclear weapons, because it was a nuclear base, but also the B-2 bomber pilots. And there's not like, listen, pilots are very confident people, but there's not this fake bravado. It's real bravado. It's real, like, we got this. And I just remember feeling that morning. It was like, they got this. We're going to be okay. So, and that's the person that's sitting in the chair that's in charge, who's the chief operating officer of IHG, the person that was protecting New York City and America on 9/11. And that is powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for being here. This was really, really incredible, and I appreciate it so much. So let's hear it for Jay Caiafa, COO of.
We're supposed to do a standing ovation. We never.
I know. Let's hit some virtual applause. Woo! All right, Jay.
I appreciate everything you're doing for our industry. So keep it up.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. So before we bring on Todd Raburn here, VP of Operations with Atrium, to get his response to what Jay was saying over there, I want to say, hey, we still got a couple of slots open if you want to play poker with Anthony this Wednesday, 8 p.m. right here on our live stream. You're going to have a chance to do it. You're going to be able to play against him. And if you don't have the money to donate to help the Hospitality Strong initiative, don't worry. Send us a note anyway, because we're choosing one lucky person, courtesy of viewer colleague Norman, to participate. So if you got a good story and why you shouldn't pay, send that note. If you want to support us, send that note. pokerwithanthony@gmail.com.
And thank you for that, Glenn. It's really an important charity, and I appreciate that. And all the funds go to our hospitality colleagues. But, I heard you say wow when he said where he was on 9/11. Let's explore that for a second. I know we have another guest, but you kind of ended a little quickly, and I just want to kind of understand, like, that gentleman is in a seat running a brand, but he was in a seat protecting our country on 9/11. And that is the kind of leadership that gets us through these crises, that steel in your veins leadership. I don't care what your background is, who you are. You don't have to be in the military. You can come from, a whole different different walks of life. But it's that steel in your veins. We're going to get through this. We're better than this. And this is going to, whether it be all the things that we're dealing with the tensions in the air in our country, or whether it be COVID, it's like you have to understand in the belief. I saw something, again, not to go off on a tangent here, but I saw a picture that was very powerful up in Harlem yesterday, I believe it was. A bunch of people from Harlem were all dressed in suits and ties, and they were all kneeling in protest. Thousands, all dressed in their suits and ties. And that to me was such a powerful message. That's steel in the veins. That's like, we ain't going anywhere. We're here and we're going to do this, and we're going to silent protest. What do we have to do for years, or what do we have to do? And that to me, whether it be Jay in the seat of IHG and he's got the steering wheel, or whether it be the people in Harlem who dressed up in suits yesterday and kneeled in protest, that's what this country's about. That's what I feel coming out of this, is that we're going to be okay, but we need those kind of leaders. We know those leaders in Harlem, and we need those leaders up in IHG. So thank you for giving me 30 seconds.
No, I freaking love it. Thank you for taking advantage of our show to say your opinions. All right, let's bring in Todd Raburn. All right, Todd, welcome to the show. Let's make sure you're unmuted there. Todd, you've muted yourself. You've got to unmute yourself. So we got VP of Operations, Atrium Hospitalia. They literally have dozens of hotels with a lot of different companies out there. Companies such as, of course, Intercontinental, Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, all of these kinds of things. Hey, I see your website's done by G-Commerce Solutions. They created my No Vacancy News site, so I already feel a kinship here with you, Todd. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Glenn and Anthony, and thank you so much for letting me follow an American hero and a guy that was watching over us over 9/11. That's a hard act to follow.
Oh, thank you for calling him American hero, because that's exactly how I felt, and I wanted to take that moment to recognize that, and not just to bypass it. It's really important, because he is an American hero, and now he's a hero in a different way with the team, and those leadership traits that he learned in the military will get IHG through it. And I mean, I was a fan of IHG, and I'm a bigger fan now.
Excellent. So, Todd, what do you think of their cleaning protocols? How does it compare to the other protocols that all the major companies have put out? I feel like they're all what needs to be done, just a little bit different flavors, but they're all really important. Any nuances and distinctions that you're seeing between them? How are you processing all of that, and are you doing anything different? Wow, that was a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, all the brands have really done a good job putting programs together. And, I'd just like to say right off the bat that, hotels were clean before COVID-19. Yep. Obviously, we need to be different and better and respond to the consumer demands for today. But yeah, we've listened to the brands and what they have to say. But Pete Comar, my colleague and former and VPO in our company, is kind of our guru of clean, and he put together a program we're calling Cleanliness Assured, and we're ready. Our hotels are clean. Our guest rooms are clean. Jay said that the important thing was to get the guest rooms clean first, because that's where people feel safe. And we're doing that at a high level using EPA approved chemicals, retraining our staff so that they know what we want them to do in the hotel rooms. And then knowing how to flow guests around the hotels and other pinch points like elevators, right, restaurants, meeting spaces, like Jay was referring to. We've done a nice job of providing information not only to our operations folks, but to our sales folks, so that they can explain what we're doing in our hotels to our customers as we begin to bring business back.
Excellent. So you look like you're in a hotel right now.
Thank you. I'm in my newly remodeled office at home.
Well, it looks great. It really, I'm sitting here going, I feel like I've been there before, and I'm double checking what your properties are to see if you're actually in a hotel. But I love that. I love that look. I love that feel, and I love how comfortable it is there for you. All right. So Todd, you've got literally dozens of hotels. What are you seeing right now on the ground in terms of the rebirth of your business?
Well, the best thing that we're seeing is leisure business, particularly on the weekends. We made a strategic decision several weeks ago to ensure that anywhere that we had a pool that could open because of local restrictions or guidelines, that we had those pools open. And what we've discovered is that any pool or any hotel that's operating with a pool rather is seeing significant demand on the weekends.
Awesome.
And we're really pleased with that. We also have a number of hotels that are experiencing some great business from our government. National Guard business in places like Jeff City and other places like that. But right now, really what we're excited about as summer really kicks into high gear is leisure demand.
Excellent. Anthony?
And yeah, as far reference to leisure demand, that's what's going to carry us through until we can get back to corporate business, which I think you're going to start seeing come back the end of August, September, October, and then maybe the beginning of the year you'll start seeing more conventions and more meetings. But I think it's not only important for us to do it right, but we've got to get the leisure part right. We've got to get the separation right. We've got to get all the social distancing right. We've got to get the food and beverage right. We've got to get our safety, security all right, and then we can start having maybe a convention and maybe a meeting, and then maybe we start to have the weddings. So I think we have to, crawl before we walk and walk before we run. And I think, fortunately, unfortunately, the way different states are opening up, it's going to give us that time. I know in New York City today we went to phase 1. Unfortunately, I think most people in New York City are on phase 3 in their mind. But we're in phase 1, and it was a big day for us. I mean, just 8 weeks ago, we were having, I don't even want to talk about the numbers of people who were dying and people that were sick, and we're in phase 1 already. So, but it gives us a chance to kind of do this the right way. And I think same thing in the hotel business.
Yeah, I think you're right. And important to us, we have 84 hotels. We have over 3 million square feet of meeting space across our hotels. And we need meetings and conventions to come back. We need people to feel safe so that they're able to gather. We have a number of hotels across several states where the restrictions are loosening that are able to have events. We have weddings on the weekends. And so we're starting to see that business come back. But with our company, 40% of our revenue comes from food and beverage, and we're ready to begin to have meetings and events again very soon.
So how does food and beverage change for you at this point going forward? And again, I asked this question with the understanding that this is the short term. I'm a firm believer that a year from now or whatever it is, things will be what they used to be. But what are you thinking about now, Todd?
Yeah, we've provided some information to our operations and sales folks to help our guests understand what we plan to do. And I think we have a good plan. Obviously, physical and social distancing is important. So showing our guests what the reduced capacities are now in our meeting spaces. If the capacity was 1,000 before, now it's 200 or 500. How does that look and feel? And then from a food and beverage offering standpoint, we know that I heard you mention buffets before.
Right.
Obviously, we have a number of Embassy Suites hotels where the breakfast is a core part of the brand positioning. So instead of being a buffet, so to speak, whether it's in an outlet or in a catering space, we're looking at cafeteria style service for buffets and a lot more grab and go type items rather than displayed, actually handed out by an associate that is wearing protective protection. And we feel like we have a plan that will enable us to do meetings and events when the guests are ready to come back.
So, if you ask me, I think we should have been done that way 30 years ago. I was actually, my first job was at the Overland Park, Kansas City Embassy Suites, the first Embassy Suites that ever opened in our country. And my first challenge was to figure out breakfast because we were getting overwhelmed with breakfast. And we kind of went to that. We kind of went to that service where we served you. It was actually quicker. I thought we should have done that 20 years ago. I think it's safer, and it's, to me, I don't like going up to a buffet and everybody on top of each other. So I just think it's about time anyway.
So Todd, I apologize, but Anthony, you knew John Q. Hammonds?
I did.
Wow.
He was actually, he was my mentor. And he taught me everything I need to know. I've never met the man. I have no idea. No, I did not meet him. But he was. It was the first Embassy Suites ever. My general manager Arlene, who is still a friend of mine, I see her on social media all the time. My first challenge ever in the hotel business was to figure out the buffet. So I understand the challenges. And
I just hope that I could go and have one of my made-to-order omelets at Embassy Suites coming up real soon. Todd, sorry, back to you.
And that's great. And that's you don't have it in a buffet dish. So I think the omelet station should stay, because as long as you do the social distancing. I'm sorry, Todd.
Yeah, no, it's good points. And I think, the other thing about catering and operations, instead of doing buffets and long lines, we think that they're going to be spread out in the stations. Just want to point that out. You mentioned something about leadership earlier, and I would be remiss. I know we're getting close on time, that with our hotels and our leaders, we're calling them the asset protection teams, our general managers and the 4 or 5 managers that stayed on property to really see us through on this. I just got to give a shout out to those guys. They have done tremendous work implementing the strategies that our corporate leadership devised. to help us stay alive during this unprecedented time. And I just want to say to those guys and gals out there that we appreciate you and we appreciate your strong leadership and everything that you've been doing.
And Anthony Prusek just wanted to tell you that he taught you everything you need to know about sales.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, and Antonin Piotr. Sorry, Antonin. I apologize for messing up your last name. He also claims to Anthony. That must be an Americanized version of your name, right? All right. So cool. I love that you guys have been working together. I want to go back to that buffet comment you said. That was very interesting, and I don't want to let that go. People have been saying, hey, we're going to get rid of buffets. We have to get rid of buffets. We have to get them out of here. But you're saying, no, we could separate everything in order to create an atmosphere where you can still give customers what they are accustomed to. How does that work?
Yeah, we think it looks a lot more like what we would call a reception beforehand, where you have action stations set around the rooms, you have bars, you have chef-attended stations set around in a large space that creates an opportunity for flow. It still gives a customer a high-end product. They still have a great experience. There's still opportunity for them to mix and mingle, but in a larger space. Our strategy really is to focus on action stations, attended stations, so that we can give a guest a really high-end product and limit the amount of congestion around a small buffet area.
Right. That's interesting. Anthony, this is interesting to me in the sense that I felt like everybody was reacting at first. And now that people have had time to process, think, plan, and execute, what we were talking about 6-8 weeks ago is now being revised to really, I think, meet the future needs of customers and get them coming back.
Well, I think because what happens, we went through, we have to admit what we went through. We went through trauma. There's a lot of trauma going on. And so when that's happening, we just went from, okay, everything gets cut off, no more buffets, nobody's eating, nobody's staying next to each other, nobody's flying. And I think now as we're coming out of this and say, we may be living with this for a while, how can we do it safely and how can we get back to business and how can we split the difference? And I think, initially we were just cut, everything goes. And now we have to rebuild it. And again, having leadership and smart people and, and talking to Todd, you obviously an operator, you obviously know how to run a hotel. You obviously have worried about housekeeping and buffets, and you've been on the front lines of this. So again, who better than you to figure this out? So we just have to come back to it. We have to come back to it smart. And I think a lot of that, there's going to be efficiencies in that. Not only efficiencies from maybe savings, but also efficiencies in making me feel better. I never liked the long line and the buffets and everybody breathing on my food. These sneeze guards to me never really protected that food, in my opinion. So I think in the long haul, I think this is all going to kind of work out nicely. And again, getting back to what we said about IHG, and you said, well, a lot of these things will go away. No, there's no reason for all this double downing on cleanliness to ever go away. We are going to have less rooms cleaned every day. That's going to happen. I think if you take a percentage of rooms cleaned the year before we went into this, and the year, even 5 years later, I think the percentage of rooms cleaned every single day in the hospitality industry is going to be cut down by 20 or 30% because people don't want people in their room. So there's savings there. So why not double down on cleaning the elevator buttons and having people hand me my buffet breakfast?
Yeah, agreed. I think, Atrium Hospitality is a very nimble organization. We're owner-operated model. So we can make decisions very quickly. And one of the things that we did, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we stopped thinking about what you said, Glenn, reacting to what is and starting to plan for the future. And our senior leadership tasked us with a number of things, from the Cleanliness Assureds program that we put together for our rooms and our public space and our meeting space, cleanliness programs, and our food and beverage programs too. And a number of our general managers in the field helped us devise those plans and actions. And I think that we have really armed our enterprise sales organization with the tools that they need to be able to convince our customers and our clients that our hotels are safe and will be a great place to do business.
And I think you're doing well with that. So my next question to you is, how many or what percent or have you been bringing back your staff at this point? And what are you doing to help them with their emotional and mental health component of this giant PTSD that we're all feeling right now?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because we are starting to bring back some of our associates. We have the APH team, the asset protection team in place. And as business levels resume, we have a process in place by which a general manager can make a formal request to bring back a manager to help with the new demand levels. We also give them the flexibility through our labor standards to bring back hourly associates as they see fit. There have been some challenges across our portfolio with our associates not wanting to come back because
Right.
of the pay that they're getting from the government. But our HR department has worked with the states that have the work share programs. It's been a really great tool to help bring back more people. They work for less hours, but they were able to make even more money than they were before. So I think at last count, we had over 300 associates that were back participating in that program.
Talk about that. How does that work share program work? Explain that.
Well, you take an associate that otherwise worked a 40-hour work week, and you bring back 2 associates that work 20 hours a week. And that enables them to stay on the government programs and continue to earn that money from the government as well.
So they still get that full $600?
They do, yes.
Wow.
There's a number of states. So in some cases, like I mentioned before, they can actually earn more working 20 hours a week than they were working 40 hours a week. It's been a great program for us.
This is the first time I'm hearing it. Did you know about that program, Glenn?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing that too. Very interesting, because the issues that we're coming up against on our daily show here, and if you guys just tuned in, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, it's interesting to me that we've been hearing a lot of come back to work or don't come back to work, as opposed to trying to find something that's right in the middle, that it's going to help people keep their jobs now, keep the extra money, and keep them engaged throughout the employee process going on. Because I'm worried about when that money runs out, when those programs close down, then what happens to people? Will you be short-staffed, or will it act as a natural cleansing of your HR roles anyway? So a lot of issues to think about there, Todd.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we wanted to get ahead of it and get as many people back as we can, because we do realize that there's going to become a time very soon where demand reaches a critical mass, the new critical mass, and we will need to have a number of associates working in our hotels. And right now we have 6, 7, 8, 10 people, and all of a sudden we're going to need 30 and 40 people. It's nowhere near where it was before.
Right.
When most of our hotels operated with well over 100 associates each. But we think by working with the associate to allow them to continue to earn at a high level and come back and work and help us out a little bit, that's a win-win for everybody.
And that, to me, is kind of where people are really going to either step up or not. And as I'm going to start traveling around the country, I always say, if I went in your hotel and it wasn't great, I never really complained or whatever, never called the general manager, the owner. Now I will, because I think we've had enough time to plan. We have enough talent out there on the streets that need jobs, that if you can't figure this out, if you're a big hotel, and if I walk in your hotel and it's 80, 90% and it's a crap show, when I walk in, that's unacceptable to me. Because we have the time, we have the planning, we have the knowledge base in this industry to do this the right way. And I think it's important for people like me and people like Glenn and to walk into those hotels and hold people accountable. Because now if we don't get it right, it's just because we weren't paying attention or we don't care enough. And so I think you're exactly right. We got to do it slowly and we got to think about it. But there is no reason why we can't do this right. And I'll tell you right now, if I come into your hotel and it's not done right, I will talk about it. And before I would give you a break. But now I don't. Our industry is at stake, and we have to get this right. We have to get it perfect. And there's enough time and there's enough brain power to get it right.
Well, and I think what's interesting and perhaps a little bit of a silver lining is that because our general managers have been so close to the front lines and literally cleaning rooms and working in the laundry, and will begin to work shifts at the front desk and begin to work shifts in the food and beverage outlets, our best leaders will be the ones that are retraining our associates and working alongside our associates to ramp back up when the time comes. And we'll have our excellent leadership there to provide oversight and ensure that there's a high quality of offering to our guests.
Yeah. And I think that's critical. I think it's, Todd, being on the front lines, is getting back into the operation for a day or two. You feel different. You just feel different. You appreciate things more. You realize how hard your staff works. So the silver lining there is that the GMs, and probably sales or whoever is on the front lines again, and they feel it, because sometimes we forget. That's why that comment about, the Ivy Towers, people sit in Ivy Towers. Once you get back in the trenches, you realize, oh, the air smells different here. And it's actually, I think it's better. I mean, I'd rather spend a day in the operations than a day in my office anytime. It's
funny you say that, because our senior vice president of operations asked all of our all the VPOs and a couple of other people in operations to go work a day or two in a hotel a couple of weeks back, and we got to experience firsthand what our leaders are doing every day. And we thought this would be, a few weeks or months, and now they're going on, 16 weeks of really hard work and long hours and long weeks. And I can tell you that going back after having a travel job and a job where you sit in your chair a lot, working a day in a laundry is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and but it's also good because we have for so long forgot, because as a general manager, you're so busy managing the brand, managing the owner, managing the management company, managing the third party sales, marketing, revenue management, and you just don't have time to go into housekeeping. You just don't have time to go into the linen and fold sheets. So again, back in the day was like 4 months ago, you would ask the general manager to go spend a day in the operation or a week or a month or whatever. They were like, you know what, there's a job down the block paying me more money and I don't have to go sit and fold laundry. Now it's like they were forced, and they probably took a pay cut, and they were like, I'm very happy, because again, hard times, you start to appreciate what you have. So I think full circle coming out of this, I think everyone will be hopefully a more informed and more patient and understanding person to the line employee, the housekeeper and the front desk person.
Yeah, and what's also interesting is we have been receiving a number of complimentary letters from our guests. I mean, I get 2 or 3 letters a week from our guests that have stayed in our hotels and are specifically calling out our general managers for their hospitality.
Awesome.
And it's interesting to see that when you have your best and brightest people engaging with your guests, the experience can be very high. And that's what I would always say, pre-COVID-19, that, one bad apple on the front lines can really desperately impact your profitability and your satisfaction levels in your hotel. So having general managers that are highly engaged and aren't sitting in their offices and on the floor, working alongside their associates on a regular basis, something that we expect all of them to do. Yep. So I think, yeah, we do. We make sure that they have time to do that.
My favorite thing was when people would come to my office and say, hey, just so you know, we have this problem with housekeeping and they're upset about this with the front desk, whatever. And I'd be sitting there laughing because I knew the problem already, because one of the line employees came to my office when nobody was looking and say, hey, this is the problem. Just so you know, boss, this is what's going on. And I always knew what problems were going on because everybody would come to me because I walked around a lot. I usually walked around at 7 a.m. in the morning when they came on shift, before their bosses came on shift, and they told me what was going on. So the time their boss came to tell me what was going on, I already had a plan and advice to give to their boss. They weren't going over their head, so to speak. They just felt comfortable and knew I would never betray them, and I would never, hold it against them to telling me the truth. I remember in one hotel, we were losing liquor, and I didn't understand why, because our liquor costs went up. And it was a union member that came to me and said, hey, boss, just so you know, look behind the cage, the liquor cage. There's a hole. Somebody cut a hole in the liquor cage, and the night was taking the liquor. So we were putting it in the front and it was going out the back. And that goes back to walk around leadership, walk around management, because that's when you find that stuff. When a delegate in a union tells you that somebody cut a hole in your liquor cage, you know that you're doing something right. And that's what I hope that we're going back to, that general managers go back to walk around management.
Yeah, I think it's a philosophy that we speak to a lot with our general managers. And I think we have a number of really talented people out there in the field that care a lot about their associates, that care a lot about their business unit. And it shows in our performance. I mean, we're one of the, I would say, best in class hotel operators in the country. Even during these difficult times, we're not making money, but our flex to the decline in revenue has been what I would call, or actually what my boss called, 5-star. Right. So we're mitigating the losses because we have hands-on managers who are not afraid to do whatever it takes to make the business survive.
That's great. Todd, before we wrap up, I didn't have a chance to participate in the conversation with Anthony and our frequent guest, Chris Green, last Thursday because our equipment overheated. We had a major meltdown standing in front of the Bellagio broadcasting, but the PPP was extended a little bit. How is that changing the way that you're moving forward at your individual hotels now that you know that you have the more of the freedom to bring people on board because of the extension of the PPP program? And I guess that would be a little bit different than the quasi program that we were talking about before to get people back with some of the money and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's going to create some challenges, but I think in the states where the work share programs do exist, that's the key to offsetting that challenge, because right. If you can get people back to work a few hours a week and feel good about the fact that when we come out of this, they're going to have a job And in the meantime, they can work a few hours. They can help us out. They can continue to get the government assistance. And like I said, in some cases, earn more than they were earning before. I think that's the key to that issue going forward.
Okay, so that is because the PPP was extended. You're financially able to do that now.
Well, I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, the PPE creates the challenge of asking associates to come back to work because they'd rather stay home.
Right. But it's been extended now to what, the end of the year?
24 weeks.
24 weeks. Right. Yeah. So as opposed to it being ending now, you've got more flexibility with it. So what we're hearing is that enables people to bring back people and not have to lay them off immediately if occupancy starts to drop.
That's true. We continue with our furlough program and that kind of thing. And I guess we have a little bit of time to go before we get there. We finished the month of May with about 14% occupancy in our portfolio. We're forecasting 16% occupancy for June, 25 for July, and then we think it's going to start to really ramp up. But we have several months before we really need a critical mass of associates to come back. But we're working hard to bring back as many people as we can as soon as we possibly can.
Great.
Well, thank you, Todd. Thank you for being on, and I appreciate your insight.
Todd, before you go, got to give yourself a shameless plug for your company so everybody could be aware of what the good stuff that you do.
Well, like I said, Atrium Hospitality is an owner-operated company. We have 84 hotels, over 3 million square feet of meeting space. We operate in 28 states. We are the 6th largest management company in the 8th largest management company in the country, and we continue to grow. We think that even though this down cycle is impactful to the overall economy, our owners are ready to position themselves with some opportunistic purchases and maybe start to begin to enter into some third-party management contracts. So we're excited for all the possibilities of today and tomorrow, and we continue to operate at a very high level.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Todd. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get you on again soon.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
So, my friend, do you want to hear my insight about the show today?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I'm hoping that we're hungry again. I'm hoping that people never rest on their laurels. I have never been that guy. I just can't. It's just not my makeup. I always felt that I was running 100 miles an hour because I was afraid somebody was chasing me. And I hope the general managers, I hope the leadership of the brands, I hope the sales and the revenue managers and the front desk managers understand one thing, that if you don't take care of your line employee and you don't take care of your housekeeping, you're screwed. You don't take care of your guests, they do. So giving them the right tools to do their job, giving them the right pay to do their job, giving them just respect. To me, I hope that's what comes out of this, because I truly feel in our industry, we got away from line employees. We forgot how important they were. And I'm not saying in all the brands, I'm not saying in all the hotels, but in general, one of the things that I saw for 10 years working around this country, it was that we forgot who ran the damn business. And who runs the damn business is our line employees. And I'm hoping by the general managers, the sales managers, everybody being on the front lines for the last 3 months, and the owners feeling that they really rely on the people to come back and to really honor their commitment to the hotel and to the leadership, that it comes down to the leadership. It comes down to, the chief operating officer of IHG, who flew and protected our country, to be in that seat, to know what real leadership is. And I just hope that real leadership goes back down to the front lines and we have a respect for them again, because I think we lost that. That's just my 2 cents.
No, I think that's great. And I love that perspective that you bring to the show every single day, because you were there. You know what it's like. For me, as an outsider wanting to be an insider, it's really great and refreshing to hear all of that kind of stuff. So, Anthony, let's get people to play some poker with you. We got this big tournament Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, live right here on all of our channels.
Yes. So if you like to play poker against me, we have a few more seats left. Please, all the proceeds go right to Hospitality Strong. Please go to GoFundMe at USA Hospitality Strong, and you will find a page to donate. But we'd like you to play poker and donate that way. So I think it's $300 a seat, my friend?
Yep. Yeah, it is. And if you're too scared to play against Anthony, and I know I am one of them, then simply just watch the show, join with us, make your comments, and make a donation, whatever threshold you feel is appropriate. Right?
100%, my brother. And again, I want to thank you for going on the front lines, getting on a plane with our unbelievable producer, Jeff, under very hot circumstances. You're wearing a mask. It's 110 degrees on. We're going there basically, very quickly. You went to 6 or 7 hotels. You got the fountains. We're the first news show, we call ourselves a news show, the first news show in America to have the Bellagio fountains going. We got it live. So you did great work last week, and
Thanks,
I know
man.
you were a little sweaty and you were probably a little smelly, and you looked a little exhausted. I've never seen you look more tired in my life. But the point was, and then you got basically John Flynn again in the lobby of the Bellagio on another interview. So great work for you and Jeff. Amazing.
Speaking of great work, let me compliment our producer, Jeff, who made it all happen. Could not have done any of this without him, making sure all of the technology worked. And no, not his fault. We could not have anticipated that it was going to get too hot on Thursday morning, but we had such a great time broadcasting from Lago Restaurant on Friday. Oh, and here's Jeff now. Jeff, welcome.
Hey, thanks. I'd like to add that I saw John Flynn on my way out of Las Vegas, and we are working on getting him back on the show very, very shortly to discuss, this past weekend and the opening.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, look at the show. We had John Flynn. We were in Vegas for the Bellagio. We just had the chief operating officer of IHG on. So again, we're great work, and again,
and on Wednesday, we might just have the CFO of Hilton on, Kevin Jacobs. That's going to be pretty awesome. Then Thursday, we have Ryan Rivet, the CEO of My Place Hotels of America, coming on. They just launched a brand new brand because they sense a lot of conversions are going to be coming in the marketplace. So a lot of great high-level people for the rest of the week.
And I will tell you, Glenn, today I had to run down to the beach and sit there for a few minutes because I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to put pants on.
Good. It'll be a nice change. He has not worn pants since March. So congratulations on that. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. It's really simple. You're addicted to your phones anyway. You're looking at your phone probably right now. Text the message hotel to 66866. Get subscribed for our Sunday night newsletter with all the great content we do every week. Anthony, what if they want to engage online? Isn't there a place maybe called Hospitality Success?
Well, it's interesting. We last week we kind of basically opened our company again. We closed it down, and all of our customers we just basically service for free over the period of the last 3 months. We reopened our company last week, and I'm going to tell you something. We're getting close to already on Hospitality Success. Being real busy, and we have only a certain amount of clients we bring on because they're all serviced by me and my partner and a couple of other people in our company. So we're almost at saturation point. So go to hospitalitysuccess.com. Go online. You'll see we'll have a strategy meeting with your hotel from our VP of Client Services, Chad, and get to work with Hospitality Success. And I'm telling you, my partner, Jeremy Pinkerton, is the best revenue manager in the business. So it was a good week last week, and I'm really excited to see clients bringing their hotels back online and getting excited about the business again. And it's going to be challenging. We have to make really smart decisions for our clients right now, and really not make emotional decisions, but make thoughtful decisions and make sure that they're being made by the bottom line and not just pure emotion.
Yep, that's right. So keep smart, keep sane, keep safe. And Jeff and I are going to have a big announcement this week too. Lots of exciting things happening. We're moving forward. What?
Wait. What's the big announcement?
I don't think my wife is going to be able to.
Wait, is there a big announcement that I need to know about you and Jeff? Do I need to know about that?
I'm moving to Smithtown.
All right. Well, I'm happy for you. All right, guys.
He's not moving to Smithtown. All right,
Glenn, give me your quote, Glenn. What's your quote?
All right, so remember, guys, you've got one life, so blaze on and